Hello, and thank you for joining me on these broadcasts. I had some technical issues before, and someone said they could not hear me, and so I had to log off and just to be able to check whether you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, just type in that chat box. It's my very first Facebook Live, so I'm not very confident in terms of how it works. So if you can hear me, can somebody just type in that you can hear me, and I'll just go ahead, because I logged on before I started and someone said he couldn't hear me. So if you are connected, please just let me know whether you can hear me. Okay, thank you for letting me know you can hear me. So welcome, and thank you for joining me on this program. And I believe that we're going to have a really good time together. And I know that you are going to benefit. If you're a parent of a child in the UK, it's going to apply to you, and I believe it's going to be of great benefit to you. So, Blessing, you're welcome. Ihoma, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Pauline Lehman. For those of you who do not know me, who have not kind of heard me speak before, or if you've been invited by someone, my name is Pauline Lehman. Hello, Adeyinka. Thank you for joining me. It's a real pleasure to have you watching and listening today. I'm an author, speaker, educator. I'm a life coach for children and teenagers. And I'm also an academic success strategist. And what I do, my passion really is to help parents raise high achieving children. So I work with parents coming up with strategies that they can implement at home to be able to support their children. And usually my one-to-one work with parents is more strategic, so we can come up with a plan that works for each child. Hello, Modupe. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Inemo. It's my pleasure there. Thank you for joining me on today's program. If you don't know me, I am a big advocate for academic excellence and the strategic positioning of the Black child. My passion is to see our children maximize their potential in school and to go on to become successful in anything that they set their hearts to do. Why did I start to do this work? My background is in teaching. I've been an educator, teaching in a secondary school for 13 years. And in the course of working with children, I taught children of all abilities who were not achieving their potential. Now, when I talk about children not achieving their potential, what do I really mean? Because for parents, when you go to parents' evening, they tell you your child is doing well. So if your child, for example, was targeted a level 4, a level 5, and they get level 4 or 5 in a test or an exam, then they would say they have achieved, their target and they are doing well. But is that the utmost the child can do? Is that the child's full potential? Given the right conditions, the right mindset, the right support from home, that child can definitely achieve more. And I taught kids that I thought, wow, if this child was in a different family, a family where they were supported, they would be doing a lot better. And that is what brought about this passion to support children, especially children within our communities, because educational report states that Black children are underachieving, and it's been a historical problem. And my passion really is to support children to understand the educational system so that they can support their children to achieve their full potential. So today we're going to be talking about, does where you live and the type of school your child attends affect the quality of education they receive? So does where you live and the type of school your child attends affect the quality of education that your child receives? Now let's talk about where you live. Okay, so in this part of the world where we are, we have neighborhoods that are considered to be deprived neighborhoods, and in most cities, the deprived neighborhoods would be inner city neighborhoods. So wherever you're found, wherever you're joining me on this to talk today, if you're not too sure whether you live in a deprived neighborhood or in an affluent neighborhood, again, middle class or affluent neighborhoods are usually within the outskirts, they're not within inner cities. So it's important that you find out whether you are within a deprived area or whether you are in an affluent neighborhood. So we're going to be talking about, you know, if you live in that kind of neighborhood, what are the characteristics? What kind of experience will your child have in school? Because if you know that information, you have that information, then you will be able to support your child effectively. So deprived neighborhoods really are characterized by low income, reliance on social welfare. A lot of children in such schools are on free school meals. There is unemployment, there is poor housing, and there's a high rate of crime and dysfunctional behavior. So if you live in such an area, what are the challenges that your child might be faced with that might affect how well they are able to do in school, how well they do in school, and whether they actually maximize their potential? Now, the first thing is this, that schools in deprived areas historically have been known to be underachieving. So the highest rate of pupil underachievement is in deprived area. And notably in the north of England, falls amongst the most deprived part of the UK. We have Manchester, Bradford, Liverpool. All these areas are classified to be the most deprived areas of the country. And further down south, we have the more affluent areas. So statistics shows that the highest rate of pupil underachievement among state schools is in deprived areas. Also, it's students from private and grammar schools are 3 to 4 times more likely to get A star or A grades at A levels and are more likely to go into top universities. So we see here, we can start to kind of see the difference here that it makes where you live and what sort of school your child goes to. Unfortunately, a lot of us, live within deprived areas because obviously housing is a lot cheaper. So we find ourselves living in such areas. Now, if you live in such an area, does it mean that all hope is lost for you? The answer is no. There is hope. You just need to know what you have to do, how you have to support your child to help them maximize their potential. So let's look at a state school within a typical deprived area. State schools are schools within the areas we live in where our children can attend free of charge. Usually schools not too far, walking distance or driving distance, short driving distance from home. Now, within such a typical school, a large proportion of children come from deprived homes, and we explain what deprived homes are already. The parents are uneducated, which means they really do not necessarily value education as in such a way that they would want to pour themselves into supporting their children, which means that such parents, therefore, do not necessarily get involved in their children's studies. So that is one of the challenges that we might have. Now, as a result of that, teachers have very low expectations for children. Now, in this part of the world, contrary to where we come from, if you come from Africa, you're on this show today, and you come from Africa, we value education, regardless of whether you're poor, you come from a poor background, you come from a rich background, parents go all out of their way to ensure that their children are educated. Now, it is not necessarily the same in this country, and that is why for those of us who work, we would notice that there are families from generation to generation who maybe work as carers or who maybe work as factory workers and so on, and they're quite happy to carry on like that. It is that kind of thing. So the teachers have low aspiration for children, which means they're happy to tell you that your child's target is a level 4. They've achieved the 4, they have done really well. But my question is this: if there is a level 6, 7, and 8, or if there is an A star and an A grade, why is a target of a C or a B or a D okay for your child? So that is a question I have for you today, and I really want you to think about that. But for the teachers, okay, obviously, because they don't have high expectation for children, that is okay. And they will tell you your child is doing well. So your child is doing well, please bear in mind, does not necessarily mean that your child is in a good school. So that is one of the things I really need to emphasize here. Now, within a state school in a deprived area, you would find children who are not always interested. And so they have a poor attitude to learning. And because they have a poor attitude to learning, they don't really see why they need to be learning. The teachers, therefore, do not stretch them. I remember when my daughter was in they used to go to a state school, and she would come home with one homework a week, and she would do the homework within 5 minutes. It's done. And I had lots of questions. How can this child learn? How can she improve her learning? How can this learning take her to the next level if she does one homework a week and she does it in 5 minutes? How can a child improve or maximize their potential if they have one reading book a week? Okay, so those are questions that I asked myself. I had to go in and question the head teacher. The head teacher knew I was a teacher myself, and I had this conversation with her, and she said to me, you know what, that where your children come to school is a deprived area, and even the little homework they give them, parents complain that it's too much. And that is why the day when we set homework is a day when we have homework club to help the children to do their homework. So that is the situation at hand. It is really important, parents, that we understand that if you live in a deprived area, your child is not receiving the best quality of education that they could receive to stretch them. Now, what's the other challenge? A lot of children have behavioral problems within state schools, because obviously it's not selective, so everybody is welcome. And when there is problem with managing behavior, the teacher spends a lot of time crowd controlling, struggling with kids who, if you have 30 children, there are 30 children or 30 teenagers, in a class of one teacher. It's really challenging for a teacher to be able to teach effectively and to be able to get the best out of the children. So the children are not necessarily learning as well as they would if they were in a better or a selective school environment. Hello, Amai. Thank you for joining me. Good to have you today. Also, within a state school in a deprived area, research shows that there's a higher rate of learning difficulties. Again, we've got large class sizes. Think about a class of 30 children, and you have maybe a third of them who have got behavioral difficulties or learning difficulties, or who maybe are slow learners. It's very easy for educators to come to a conclusion that they have behavior problem or they have one form of learning difficulties or the other. I'm not saying that each time they diagnose a case, that is exactly it. But what I'm saying is that within a different setting, the children will receive the support they need because the class sizes are small. So within selective schools or prep schools, the class sizes are a lot smaller and children have a lot more support. Also, within a state school, the extracurricular provision is really limited. So your children are not exposed to a wide range of extracurricular activities to help them become well-rounded children. So that is that. Now, in terms of the selective schools, okay, we have a large proportion of children from middle and upper class families. These are families that are successful either through careers, through businesses, and so on. So these families raise their children up in a slightly different way. The kids are aspirational. Again, because they are selective schools, they are children of high ability. They are children who appreciate the value of education because maybe their parents are paying. If it's a private school, they're paying for them to be there. So the parents know the value of education and they translate it to their children too. Behavior management is a very, very minimal problem. The quality of teaching, therefore, is a lot better. So it is a better environment for the teacher to, pour out themselves and ensure that the child is really maximizing their potential. It is a better learning environment because having worked in teaching, to be honest with you, minor disruption, petty disruption plays a really, really good, big role in reducing the quality of teaching. Teachers waste time managing behavior, so children do not necessarily learn in exactly the same way. So one of the other things I want to also say about, the state school system is that because it is free and it's open to everyone within the neighborhood, within deprived area, imagine the type of people your child will be mingling with. And we know that who your child mingles with can affect their value system. It can affect their behavior. A lot of times, I'm sure you will not be surprised, your child comes home with some language or some words that you really don't know where it's from, because it's not from you, it's not from home, it's not from church, it's not from your background, but they pick it up from school. So who is it that surrounds your child is going to affect a lot of things. It's going to affect their value system, their beliefs in themselves, their motivation, to want to do well in school, and so on. Now, is there any hope? Yes, there is hope for everyone. I did start by saying that it doesn't mean that if your child is in a state school or you lived in a deprived area that your child cannot maximize their potential. Your child can maximize their potential, and that is why I am passionate about working with parents and helping parents, showing them how they can actually support their children, showing them step-by-step strategies, easy to follow strategies that they can use at home to be able to support their children's education. So what are the alternatives for you as a parent watching here today? The first thing I would say, if you live in a deprived area, please consider that your child is not learning much in school. And I would encourage you to really get on hands-on to start to support your child. Now, these are the following alternatives. Supplementary schools are down, out there. Look for a supplementary school, a good one in your area. Supplementary schools have played a really, really vital role in improving the attainment of children or schools in deprived areas in London. Educational report has shown that there is a massive jump in attainment, or a massive difference in attainment between supplementary schools in London, for example, between inner city schools in London and inner city schools in the north of England. One of the reasons is because, one, the schools are better funded. There's a lot more funding to help support children's education. And secondly, parents there believe in supplementing their children's education, so they send their kids to supplementary schools and all the other systems that are, institutions that are out there to support children's education. There is Kumon, there is, supplementary school, there are tutors. Please, investing in your child's education is not a waste of money. It's really high time we as a community start to prioritize. Our children's education is so important. That is what is able to deliver them from poverty and from, help them. We need to position them to be able to live a life of financial independence. Those of us who've just come in here, we know how the rate of inflation is increasing all the time. House prices are going up. We need to ensure that we support our children. Spending £20-25 to get a tutor, if you can support your child, is not too much. So please, let's look for tutors. Let's look for the supplementary schools out there. There is Kumon out there. It is amazing. And there are lots of other institutions out there that provide supplementary facilities for your child's education. Most especially, I can't overemphasize it. Thank you. Someone says priorities over designer handbags, clothes, shoes, and having new outfits for parties every weekend. Parents, please, let us invest in our children's studies, because if we don't lay that foundation, when they grow up, they become teenagers. For those who have teenagers in schools in deprived areas that are really low achieving school, you will see what challenges, you could understand what challenges your children are going through. So if your child is in school, please support them. Lay that foundation. Help them to value education. Help them to be well behaved, because there is a high rate of pupil exclusion among our black boys. Statistics shows that black children are 3 to 4 times more likely to be excluded than their white peers. And the reason is because teachers don't have a lot of patience. Our children are a bit hyper, which is obviously due to the fact that we also are not very quiet. And it doesn't mean if they're hyper that they are bad children. They are not bad children, but a lot of the teachers do not necessarily know how to handle them well. So let's let's start to prioritize. Let's focus on what is important. Let's have hands-on parenting strategies. We're going to be talking more and more in future videos. I just want to focus on this for today. So DIY, do it yourself, because the truth is this, that a 1 hour session a week for your child, if you have a tutor or you take them to supplementary school or to Kumon, is not sufficient to help them raise them from where they are to where you believe they should be. We need to still follow them up every day, ensuring that we have the structure at home and we have the resources to use. So DIY is very, very important. Now, if you don't know, I've met a lot of parents who've asked, what resources? We don't know what books to buy. We go to Asda, we buy books. We go to £1 shop, we buy books there. Yes, there are different types of books that not necessarily would stretch your child as they should. Now, you could visit my website, www.starrichers.co.uk. On the homepage, there is selected resources. Now, those resources are high-level resources that will help you to be able to support your child's education from the time they are in the nursery to the time they get to secondary school. So I've put in the resources for all children. Go there, have a look at the resources. Start to support your child from the time they are in the nursery. A lot of parents leave it to later on and they realize that their children are struggling, and that is when, kind of a fire brigade approach. They want, instead of being proactive, they're rather reactive. So please, parents, let us really be involved. Let's take charge of our children's learning, and let's know that our children are not necessarily fully learning. Now, to be honest with you, even when your child goes to a selective school, to a private school, you even have more work. The system is set up such that whether you want it or not, as a parent, you have to get involved. But in the safe school, you don't have to, because they don't really challenge them that much. So anyhow, you need to get involved. So DIY, there is nothing that beats that. Now, the other thing, I said there is hope. The other thing is, you get your child into a private school if you can afford it. Now, let me speak to us parents. I'm speaking to parents from Africa here. When we were back home, our parents invested money to send us to private school. I remember parents who sold puff-puff on the road, who did petty trade, would struggle. They will not eat well as they should. They will sacrifice, and they will send their children to the best institutions. So parents really went all the way. Why have we forgotten that? Why do we get here and forget where we came from? I remember back home, I went to a day school, but even though I went to a day school, every day we had a house teacher coming to the house to support us. Saturday, there was a house teacher. During the holidays, the 3 months holidays it was there, we would spend a couple of weeks enjoying our holidays, and afterwards it's going to be holiday classes. And that is what helped us to achieve our potential. Children cannot achieve their potential if we just leave it to school. And it's really sad. I've spoken to parents who say, oh, I think the school is doing everything. I don't think I need to do anything else. It is really sad. No, the school alone cannot do it all. You are your child's first teacher. If you don't support your child, they will not achieve their potential. If they tell you your child's got special educational needs, you can still support them and help them achieve their potential. I'll be talking about dealing with this issue in my subsequent video chats. Now, the next thing, you can move neighborhood, you can move environment, okay? So if you're renting a house in a deprived area, you can move on and rent a house in a better environment. It's going to be a better environment for you to raise your child in. You will not be worried about who your child goes out to play with. You will not be worried about your child bringing back bad language at home. You'll not be worried about your child joining gangs, which is something that we can see within the Black community on the increase. So if you can, parents, It is not as expensive as we think. I've heard parents look for homes in Manchester, in those areas. You can rent a house, especially in Manchester. I'm not too sure about London. I think London might be a bit higher. But even if it means renting a 2-bedroom flat, you can do that and ensure that your child goes to one of the best schools. Your child is influenced by the right people. Your child is challenged in school to help them maximize their potential. Gum, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me today. It's good to have you on the show. I know you're an education advocate and we are all in it together. Thank you very much. Also, one of the things parents don't know about is preparing your child for 11+ exams. These are entrance exams that we can prepare our children to actually do when they get to year 6. September of year 6 is the entrance 11+ exam for state selective secondary schools. And in January of when your child is in year 6, they can then take the entrance exams into the private fee-paying schools. And I always say to parents, do not discount yourself. Don't feel you cannot pay and so you won't prepare your child. There are children who have passed so well that they've had scholarships. There are music scholarships. There are sports scholarships. There is scholarship for the child with the best results in that exam. So it is really important, parents, let's invest in our children's life. The investment we make today in the lives of our children, money will not buy it. We do not want to end up having children in future who come back to rely on us. Having children in future who have joined the bad gangs because we lived in a deprived neighborhoods where we're surrounded by people who are, who have, different challenges in their lives. Remember, bad company corrupts good character. So there is hope for you. If you want to have a chat with me, if you found what I just shared useful, please go ahead and share with parents that you think might benefit from this information. I'm hoping to be able to do one short video on one aspect that is affecting our community every Sunday so that you start the Monday really on high gear, ready to support your child and to be able to challenge your child to achieve their potential. So if you haven't signed up, if you'd like to receive newsletters from me, please go on to my website, starrichards.co.uk, and sign up to receive a newsletter. I do send out educational newsletters and newsletters to do with parenting. Now, if you're here today and you haven't actually liked my page, please like it so that when I post tips, hints, and information that is relevant to us as parents, you can then follow me. Now, if you have questions regarding raising up children, especially our teenagers, if you have questions regarding your child's education, please send them in and I'm going to come up and do a Facebook Live. You are not alone in it. The question you have would be the question many other parents have out there. So please send in your questions to me. You can inbox them to me or you can put them at the bottom of this thread and I will use those questions to be able to bring about discussions. So we've come to the end of it. I don't want it too long because I know we are all very busy parents, but I hope this has been really, really useful and that you will spread the word and let us work together to support our community. Together, we can change the story for our community. God bless you all.